Hey everyone, welcome back. So, in our last explainer, we dove into James Mill and his, let's say, flawed way of dividing up Indian history. And that left us with a pretty big question, right? If one person's perspective can be so skewed, how do we ever figure out what actually happened during the colonial period? Well, today, we're going to put on our detective hats because we're going on an investigation to follow the clues the British themselves left behind.
You know, you can think of historians as detectives, really. They can't just hop in a time machine. Instead, they have to rely on clues, evidence left behind to piece together what happened. And for the last 250 years of Indian history, the British administration left behind two major sets of clues. So today, we're going to follow that trail.
All right, clue number one, a gigantic paper trail. You see, the British had this core belief that writing things down was absolutely crucial. We're talking every instruction, every plan, every policy decision, every investigation, every single agreement, it all had to be written down. Now, the why behind this is what's really fascinating. This wasn't just about keeping organized. It really gets into the colonial mindset. See, once something was written down, it could be properly studied, debated, and ultimately controlled. This whole culture of memos, notes, and reports created a mountain of records. For them, it was about running an empire. For us, it's a treasure trove of historical evidence.
So, what do you do with all that paper? You can't just let it pile up in a corner. The British were incredibly meticulous about preserving everything. They actually set up dedicated record rooms that were attached to all their administrative offices, from the local tax official's office, the Tahsildar, all the way up to the district collectorate and even the courts.
And for the really important stuff, they went even bigger. They established these specialized institutions like archives and museums, all designed to preserve this history for the future. And you can see just how committed they were right in the heart of their capital. Take a look at this. This is the National Archives of India, built back in the 1920s. And get this, look where it was built, right near the Viceregal Palace in New Delhi. That was no accident. Its location tells you everything you need to know about how important these records were to the British. They were literally placed at the center of their power. And, you know, the way these documents were even made changed over time. In the early 19th century, everything was copied by hand. Beautifully, I should add. This was done by calligraphists who were masters of beautiful handwriting. But by the mid-1800s, the printing press changed the game. Suddenly, they could print multiple copies of these records and send them to different government departments with ease.
And this image just shows you exactly what we can learn from all this paper. What you're seeing is a report from 1946, when the government was trying to handle a mutiny in the Royal Indian Navy. It's like a snapshot in time. We're getting live updates. In Karachi, 301 mutineers are under arrest. In Visakhapatnam, military guards have been placed on ships. This is the raw data of history, straight from the source. Amazing, right?
Okay, but official reports only tell us one side of the story. The British also had this other belief. To rule a country properly, you had to know it inside and out. And that brings us to our second big clue, the practice of surveying. They wanted to map, measure, and categorize literally every inch of India.
And this was no casual affair. It was super systematic. By the early 1800s, they were already conducting these incredibly detailed surveys to map the whole country. Then, they started doing revenue surveys in villages to figure out taxes. And by the late 19th century, they took on the massive project of a census every 10 years, counting and classifying every single person. And on top of all that, they had all sorts of specialized scientific surveys going on.
The level of detail here is just incredible. The revenue surveys recorded everything you can imagine. The type of soil, the plants and animals, local histories, even what crops people were growing. The census, well, that gave them detailed records on the population, caste, religion, what people did for a living. And the other surveys documented everything from plants and animals to ancient ruins and forests.
This gorgeous drawing of a custard apple is a perfect example. Can you believe this is from the 1770s? British botanists would travel all over collecting plants, and then they'd hire Indian artists to draw them. What they were doing was building a massive database of all of India's natural resources, all in the name of better administration and, of course, control.
So, we have our two big sets of clues. The official paper trail from the administration and all this amazing data from the surveys. Now let's see how historians put these two pieces of the puzzle together. Here's the key thing to remember. These two types of sources give us different information. The official records, they give us the official perspective. They tell us why the British made certain decisions, what their goals were. The surveys, on the other hand, give us the on-the-ground data.
They tell us what India actually looked like at the time, its people, its land, its resources. Together, these two form the bedrock of our understanding.
But this brings us to probably the most important question we can ask. All of these records, the memos, the reports, the surveys, they were all created by British officials. They tell us what those officials cared about and what they wanted to remember. So, does that mean we're getting the whole story?
Well, the answer is a big, resounding no. These official records can often hide just as much as they reveal, especially about the lives of everyday people. So, in our next explainer, we're going to be detectives again. We'll dig into what these sources don't tell us and how historians hunt for the voices that were left out, using the really fascinating case of a police strike in 1946 to see exactly what's missing from the official story.
Before you go, here's a quick rundown of the key terms we talked about today. Go ahead and pause here if you want to review the main tools that historians use to understand this period. It's all here, from the official records that tell us why the British did what they did, to the surveys that show us what their India looked like. Thanks for joining me on this investigation, and I'll see you next time as we dig even deeper